Welcome, everybody. So excited to see you on this Tuesday. We'll let everybody get settled in here for just another minute or two, and we'll go ahead and get started. In the meantime, let us know if you're attending any conferences this summer. Lauren, you just got back from one, right?
I did. I went to my first conference, Scaling New Heights. If I saw
Oh,
anyone there, it's lovely to virtually see you again. And yeah, I'm excited to potentially continue to go to some more in the future. It was awesome. It was really cool.
that's awesome. It's definitely a different energy. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Are there any other conferences Keeper's going to this summer?
I think there's a few. The next big one is Intuit Connect, or formerly known as QuickBooks Connect, and that's in October. I think there's a couple smaller ones this summer, but Maddie might know better than I do.
Erica and I are headed to Bridging the Gap at the end of the month. So if anybody else is going to be there, come find us.
Righty. Well, we'll keep everybody keep the room open so everybody can join if they're a little bit late. But let's go ahead and get started, ladies. So we are back for another episode of Game Changers so that we can share a little bit more about those built-in features that are beyond month end but are really cool and that just level up Keeper or make it to where it can fit more of your needs as a firm. Jody and I are joining from Hughes and Strong. So we're just about to cross our 3-year anniversary, which is really exciting. But we started this so that we could be nerds about the systems and the workflows and just help other business owners. So we're specializing just in Keeper so we can go test all the new features and then give them to you with kind of creative examples. But one thing that's really important to us is that there's not a right way. Everybody uses Keeper so differently. So one of the things that we really love is seeing all the creative ways people use Keeper so that we can kind of share and help everybody figure out how it's going to work best for them.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I am a former CSM here at Keeper. I am now our implementation team manager, realizing we should update that. I am based in Denver, Colorado, but however, I'm actually in New York this week with a few of our other success team members doing some team training and whatnot. But I'm a former educator myself who transitioned into customer success, and I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary at Keeper.
Congrats.
That's so exciting.
Well, as we mentioned, this is the volume 3, our third iteration here of the Game Changer series. If you're curious about volume 1 and 2, you can find those on the Keeper YouTube channel. And this is a quick look at what we covered in those previous series. Like then, today we are going to highlight some additional key features in Keeper that go beyond the month close, how some people are using those, including those creative examples, and then explore how to set those up if you find any that you want to try.
One thing that we're going to emphasize before we start rolling into all the ideas and all the cool features, be careful about how much you add to your plate and make sure that you're not adding stuff unmindfully, right? Like it's really easy to think, oh my gosh, this means I'm only scratching the surface of Keeper and that feel heavy. So we want to share these as ideas that can kind of help you expand your use of Keeper, but be careful what you put on your plate and don't feel like you are a failure if you're not using all of these. These are extra ones that we get to highlight and show simply because we've seen so many different accounts. So don't feel like you have to implement every single one of these examples, but think of it like a buffet. Take what you want on your first plate, little bit of this, little bit of that, if that sounds good. But you can always come back and look at different episodes that we've done or come back to these features as you're able to move on to the next ones.
Yes. And we strongly encourage you to ask questions anytime. In the bottom right, I believe, is where this is going to be found. Instead of the chat, please do select the questions box here to submit any of your questions, but do ask those anytime throughout the whole presentation. We are going to have a few Q&A breaks as we go to answer those questions as we go through the different features. And with that, let's dive in. The first feature covering today is task statuses. This is where you can get visibility on where you are with your individual tasks. Commonly used for showing in progress, if you're stuck, waiting on the client, or if you need to skip that one this month, you might need to skip it, or of course, done. But these are each going to be on that transaction, or I'm sorry, on that task line. Right off to the side there is where you can mark those.
And like Jody mentioned, this just gives more detail. We have that overall close status of where we're at with the month end, but this is on the task level. Where are we at with individual pieces? And we can
This is a
actually
quick
set
GIF
these
just
up
showing you
in
how to set those
our
up.
practice settings. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go to practice settings at that gear icon in the top. It'll be under workflows. And at the very bottom of the page, you've got task status options. So that's where you can add any other ones or change the wording if you'd like to change it from like canceled to skip or something like that.
Yeah. Now, unlike the close statuses, there are no color coding here and there's not any built-in notifications. But one bonus tip that you can do with task statuses is within your task list. So if you go to your task list, you can sort by your status and create saved views to be able to have that as part of your regular routine. Let me check to see if there's any that have been marked in here with that specific status, if it's something that you're using to follow up or review.
I did want to chime in that there are two statuses that you are unable to delete that Keeper adds by default, and
Yes.
that would be done as well as canceled. You can change the name if you would like to change the wording, but you are unable to completely remove them. And so I just wanted to clarify, oh, and not started, there's technically a third. Canceling is designed for when you basically want to skip the task essentially, but you still want a record that it was on that close page or in that custom task. So just want to make sure maybe like it falls behind, it doesn't get completed, but you don't necessarily want to delete the task. That's what canceled is designed for. And as Jody mentioned, you can change the name, you just can't delete it, the status itself, as well as not started and done.
Really great clarification there, Lauren. So new one that just rolled out is multi-user sign-offs. So this is a way that we can pass tasks between our different team members and have them sign off as if we were all in the office together and just passing it off from one to the other and having a signature at the bottom. So like we mentioned, this is passing tasks between team members, but we're not having to create a separate task to assign it to the next person. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use these where maybe you're having that initial preparer go through and review something on the first level, but then passing it on. So let's say like those financial reviews for that profit and loss, having that first person sign off, yep, I looked at it. And then the second person, whoever you would like that to be on the team, to pass that off. So quick example, but this is way more expansive and you can add this on any task.
And you can set your firm-wide permissions. So you're going to go up to your practice settings under practice and statements, workflows, and sign-offs. So this is going to play on repeat here for a minute to show you that. But you can set who has permissions to be able to create those sign-offs, override or undo them. You can do that across the whole practice together to give permissions there. And then this is an example of actually creating that, adding that to a task. And as Erica mentioned, you can add that to custom and closed tasks. It's available to both.
One thing that we really love is that you can also do this at the template level. So if across the board you want to have somebody sign off on that profit and loss and balance sheet, for example, or maybe the uncategorized report, any of those can be added at the template level so that they're consistent across clients. So that's one thing that's really cool is you can add them into your templates for new clients coming on board, or we can add them individually if this is kind of a unique one for this client.
And sign-offs will capture the name of who completed the sign-off as well as the timestamp of when that sign-off was completed. So you can kind of have your audit trail there with all of the details that you need. And it'll do that for each person listed on the sign-off. Once the previous person is signed off, the next one is going to get a notification to say that it is ready for them. So this is a screen grab here to show you what that email would look like.
And I did want to mention that you're not limited to 3 signups. You can actually add more. However, 2 to 3 is the most common scenario, right? Like that it's tied to those
Right.
roles, like prepare, review, and manager. Something to note when you do have multiple users listed in the sign off is whoever is the ultimate, like the last sign off, they do have the ability to override the sign offs below them. So let's say you have that sign off for the prepare, the reviewer, and the manager being the last sign off. The manager is able to essentially go back and override the prepare and reviewer sign off if they're able to complete the task for whatever reason without needing them to actually sign off. So that's something to consider too when you're setting up those various permissions and sign offs.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that just means that if it was a busy month and they actually don't need that first person, or first person was on vacation, that can be overridden and you're not consistently having to have that person log in to go just do a sign off. There is that kind of higher level to be able to make that process smooth on everybody.
Right. And you can see the sign-offs from your task list as well. So we mentioned with our task statuses that you can sort by the status. You can also toggle to see what tasks require your sign-off, and you can add columns that show you the various sign-offs, how many are there, and who the next person is to sign off. You can do that by clicking the Edit Columns button right here to be able to add those extra columns in. But there is a quick filter button up here at the top to just see what requires your own sign off there. With that, we're going to take our first Q&A break. So are there any questions about the task statuses or the multi-user sign-offs?
Okay, so if I understand this question, this is like double checking what actually happens. So I think it's really important to understand that a task is not technically marked done unless all the sign offs happen. So what's going to happen is that first person's going to sign off. The next person down the line is going to get an email notification or be able to see it on their task list that they're next up. They would sign off, both timestamps would be captured. And then once that second or final sign off is completed, then that task is marked done. Lauren, is there anything else you want to add as context there?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what I was going to say. It can't be marked as complete until everyone's signed off. So it's kind of a safeguard for that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, our next question is for the sign off feature. Does a notification show up in the notification inbox? I have only been receiving an email and those get lost in email, so I would prefer to have the notification in inbox as well. At this time, it is only an email notification. It is not going into your like the Keeper chat inbox is where I think you're talking about that for the notifications. That's just for your Keeper chats and comments. So this is separate from that. It will go to email, but that's a great feature request that I think we can get added to Canny
I'm dropping the Cami in the chat right now. Great minds think alike.
Perfect. Exactly. Well, and I think that does one thing that we've started implementing with anything that we do sign offs for is making part of your morning process or adjusting your task list to include anything that requires your sign off so that you can have that updated list, go double check to see if you're the bottleneck on anything, if anything's waiting on your signature. So until that gets updated, I think that's a quick stopgap to make sure that you have a saved view to be able to check and review anything like that.
Right. Any other questions on TETS? Here we go. Let's see.
I can read this aloud because I don't think the attendees can see it, so I'll read it. Is there any way when a client, it's okay, I got you. Is there any way is there any way when a client uploads their bank statements that the statement can go directly into the reconciliation close attachment area? Right now, I have to move the statement to the reconciliation area attachments.
So that's a really good question. Jody, are you reading this as, is there any way when a client uploads their statements that it can go directly to the reconciliation in QBO? Is that how you're reading it? I just want to make sure.
No, I'm reading it as part of the task there. And honestly, either way, the answer is no, not right now. The only automatic movement of documents is if you have that enabled to automatically upload it to a transaction. Like if you asked for a receipt, your client uploads that receipt. There is a setting that you can toggle on so that when your client uploads that receipt, it automatically pushes to QBO as well. But that is not the case for bank statements at this point. So that is still a manual process. Any more on statuses or multi-user sign-offs? If not, we'll keep going forward and we can circle back to any of the other additional ones. Okay, let's move on to number 3, our client information. There's many places in Keeper where you can store things that you use on a regular basis. So if you're working in Keeper, it's nice to be able to have quick links to things that you use on a regular basis or notes about that client to keep those on file. 2 primary areas that a lot of people use are the client details and the client notes. Client details, it's like one big page, kind of like a Google Doc or Wiki page where you can keep links and information. This can be pinned to the top of your close page. So client details is something that you could have shown all the time. Alternately, we've got client notes. This is where you can have multiple entries. They're going to be dated. They can have a title, and then you can see a preview of the text. And then each one of these is going to be that full page where you can customize information there. This is also searchable and has a notes history. A closer look at your client details here. Again, most of the places in Keeper have this text formatting now. So you can have hyperlinks. You can even drag and drop images in here as well if needed. But this is a deeper look at the client details area.
Jody, do you mind going back, or Erica, to the previous slide? I do just want to touch on the commentary for passwords. I do just want to clarify that Keeper, we have SOC 2 level certification. So all information is encoded or encrypted in transit and in rest. So the recommendation here is that this isn't designed to be a password storage platform necessarily, but we'll go over like the recommended details to storing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to note on that is anybody on your team that has access to the client will be able to see these 2 places. So that's another reason that we would recommend that not be the place that you're keeping passwords, is this is visible notes. So this is better used for some of the examples we're going to talk about, like common links and stuff like that. But having a separate password manager that doesn't allow us to see the actual password but still be able to share it is going to be that side place that we're going to keep those.
And this is a deeper look at your client notes page. So the page themselves, they look very similar. You can do similar things in here. It's just how is it stored? Client details is going to be one big one that you can pin to the close page. Client notes is going to be more like an entry that you can open. But here at the bottom, you can see that there's also a notes history to show you who and when edits were made.
And this is a new one that we can actually create a template for our notes, which is really cool. So if we want to use this for a place that we're housing our SOPs, let's get the formatting for what we want to use for that, or the color coding or whatever, so that we can kind of save ourselves some of that formatting work. Same idea if you do call notes for these or client specific SOPs, however you want to tackle this. This is a really cool way to create the framework and structure and the formatting so that you can then just hit add new note, pull from this template, and then have a starting line.
Absolutely.
Now, in tandem, another place that we can keep client information is custom properties. So these all live in the same info button at the top of our client page, but this is a really cool area that allows us to essentially capture client info and create a dashboard that we can see from our client list. So if we look at the client page, we go up to info and properties, that first tab, then we can see any of the fields that we have. So this is also covering where do clients notes live. So the last two that we talked about, details and notes, all live under this info button with our properties that we're talking about now. So properties are kind of like that sheet for common things that we're going to need to know about a client for quick reference. Now, like we're showing here, when we're on our client list, we can go up to that little kind of table looking icon and show any of these properties that we have on file. So this is a really cool differentiator between our details and notes that we just talked about and the custom properties, is that any of these can be shown to create a saved view that gives us kind of that dashboard feel where we can show client info.
And there's a variety of types of custom properties that you can create. So you've got text boxes, check boxes, a space where you can upload attachments, drop down selections, and you can also do date or user drop downs as well. If you have something where you're doing multiple selections, so maybe you have one that's about the different services that you offer, you could have multiple services listed in that area. You could also have it as a dollar value or percentage value. So lots of options here. And with these, you can do additional formattings like color coding can happen within your custom properties as well.
So, like we said, you could use these for a lot of different things, but some of the most common uses that we've seen are being able to house the file of the engagement letter that you have for your client so that it's really easy to view the scope. If there's any questions about that. We can house our mailing addresses, the sign on date, our client's birthday, again, all to be able to see it at a big bird's eye view. Now, one of the more creative uses that we've seen this for is if you have a specific day of the week that you work on clients. Let's say you do these clients on Monday, these clients on Tuesday. This allows you to have a field for that and will show how to create a dashboard of just your Monday clients. So, again, kind of going back to a couple of others, you can list the services that you do for that client to again be able to filter and view just your payroll clients. You can do business type or even tax form to add more context around who I need to do my 1040s for and things like that.
And we're going to give you a couple of examples of how these can be used to create saved views. So one of the most common ones that we share is this payroll view. We have a variety in here. So we've got a checkbox here just to indicate, yes, this client uses payroll. And so this payroll save view is driven by this column. If this box is checked, then that client will show up on this tab. We also have shown in here who the individual team member is that handles the payroll. So this is a user dropdown. And then we have a drop down for choosing what that payroll system is, payroll frequency, and then we have our payroll section so we can see what payroll tasks are needed for that client. Just a quick example of a payroll save view.
Exactly. So a lot of these are going to function off of a custom property that we showed, like payroll or like some of those others, and then we can filter down for like, Jody, can you actually go back to that last one really quickly?
There we go.
So not to spend too much time and get way in the weeds, but the way that these work is we're going to show that property, and then we can filter down any of the pieces on that we want. So for this view, we showed the payroll column and then filtered right on the top of that column to say only those that have the check mark yes, and that will show us just our payroll client. So that's just how a lot of these work in general is we're going to show the custom columns that we want on that view, and then we're going to filter it down and save that view. And we can get really creative with this. So this is I get where I get really nerdy, and we can even do things that are a little bit outside the box, like being able to save our leads or prospects. So this is one that, again, just an example that we can create any columns that we need to organize the information that we need on our clients. So if we want to keep new leads or prospects or people that are in the diagnostic review phase in sales in Keeper, we can create properties just around that and create a custom view just to show those and best filter those leads outside of all of our other bookkeeping clients.
And Erica, it looks like you guys have them. Oh, sorry, Jody. I was going to say unconnected clients. So when they're a lead, you're adding them as unconnected, meaning free and Keeper, not connected to QuickBooks. And then if they do convert to a client, that's when we're retroactively connecting their QuickBooks file.
Yeah, great mention here, Lauren. So we can get really creative with our unconnected clients and at least get them in here so we can keep track of our tasks for that side in the same place that we would our clients, and then kind of process through. So great call out there, because I don't want anybody to worry about, well, I don't have QuickBooks yet because they're a lead, or I don't want to like up my charge too much. Right. So great call out there.
Yeah. And our little keeper cow down here reminding us that Zapier can fill in and edit properties as well. So that is a feature available if you wanted to automate some of these. And there's a whole slew of things that can be done using Zapier to bring outside information into Keeper. But editing and filling in these properties is one of those that you can explore. We've done a lot of talking about these. Where do we set them? All right, that's going to be here in your practice settings. You're going to go to the all client settings, and then you're going to click on that properties tab. We'll let this cycle through again. All clients, properties tab, and then click on manage properties. And that's where you can add, edit, delete, anything that you need to do there. And it's a huge playground. And with that, do we have any questions about client notes and client properties?
So we currently use the notes section for monthly close notes, but it's getting a little bit cluttered over time. So is there a way to archive or organize their notes? And so let's go ahead and answer that one first. That is a great feature request. It's not out there as Keeper stands currently right now, but I think that's a really great idea. So short answer, not right this moment, but really worth throwing it into Canny if it's not already.
Yes. And on the flip side of that is pinning, being able to pin a client note is another feature
to the
request,
top.
I believe, that's already out there in Canny as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am working on those. I'll drop them in the
Thank you.
chat as I find those cannies.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Maddie, any
So
others
can you
about
give us
client
an
notes or
example?
properties? Here we
Yep,
go.
we've got one here about, can we give an example of what a
Hmm.
percentage value, like what we would use that for? So that's a really good one. Jody, do you have any ideas off the cuff? I have one that's a little bit farther out, but this is not
Not
one
off
I've
the top
seen
of my
used very
head.
often. Okay, so one thing that I could think about is if you were doing more CFO or consulting side of our industry, we could have a percentage like revenue increase for our goal. So like revenue goal and have that be a percentage column and maybe you keep track of those for your CFO clients of what percentage are we hoping to get like increase. So that's the only one I could come up with off the top of my head, but that's a really good one that I haven't seen used. So we may have to get more creative and go into the Facebook group after.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I'm seeing right this second relating to these. There's a couple that we'll circle back around to here in just a moment.
Okay. So then we will do this is the last feature that we're highlighting today. It's all about the custom transaction reviews. We can build out custom reports based on our client's needs, our client specific needs. So I'm going to jump right into, before we get into the building custom, let's talk about what's default within Keeper. So Keeper has already built out reports and transaction reviews for us. These are the initial ones, the basic ones that come on every page. It's part of that default template. Um, so all of these are available, and you can see which ones are marked as QB only that aren't available for Xero. But these are the ones that are in that default template. Now, also, in
And let's
addition to those, oh, go
clarify
ahead.
Let's clarify wording just to make sure everybody's on the same page here. So we're talking about within the transaction review or within the payee review sections on a connected client. These are like those reporting tasks that pull our information from the accounting software. We're
Yes,
not talking about client reports or like management reports. So just want to make sure we are all on the
correct.
same page with lingo here, but feel free to go past that.
Yeah. Thanks, Erica. That's a good clarifier there. In addition to those default transaction reviews, we have a few other ones that Keeper has already built out for us if you enable them. So underneath the client settings, if you toggle on class, location, or customers, these additional reports will automatically add to your client page and become available to you.
I do want to chime in here, Jody. Sorry,
Sure.
my Wi-Fi I feel like is cutting
Yeah.
in and out. Depending on when you
You're
started your Keeper account, this previously used to be something you manually had to do for every
Yes.
single client when you added them to Keeper. Last year, we did release an update. We were able to work with the API integration with QuickBooks that moving forward, this should automatically enable in Keeper if it is enabled in QuickBooks.
Good
That being
clarifier there.
said, it's not always perfect. So I do recommend double checking. A good way you'll know is when you open up the client's close page for the first time, by default, if it's a QuickBooks client under transaction review, you'll see 7 reports. If class has been enabled correctly, and then it will automatically add those reports. And for instance, you'd see 9 instead of 7. So if you're not seeing the class for any of these by default, do exactly what Jody's showing you on the right-hand side of the screen. Check your client settings. But just to be really clear, it's client settings, meaning unique to this client. So if you're in a client that doesn't use class location or projects, but you're like, well, I want those reports for a different client, just make sure you're in the correct close page because it's client by client.
Yes. Great clarifier there.
That's
Thank
a
you.
really good mention. So it's client by client, and it is driven by whether you have those turned on in QuickBooks. So let's just make both of those like super, super clear. And then I think that's a great call out, Lauren, that in theory, these should pop up for you. But if they don't, go into your client settings and make sure that they're enabled so that these extra reports drop in.
Right. One last note about our defaults in here is that they can be adjusted. You can click on edit excluded list or edit dollar threshold to make some adjustments to those ones that are already built out. They can also be removed. You can click delete if you don't use them so they're not cluttering up your page. It's really easy to add them back in if you choose to want to use them in the future. And then you can add to them. So that's what this is all about here today, is adding your own custom reports to round out your transaction review. So getting really detailed for your client's specific needs. To add those
And one
custom
mention
reports. Oh, go
on
ahead,
just
Erica.
through line. You're good. One through line here, Lauren mentioned this on like class location customers. Want to make sure that this whole section, this whole feature, any of these reports are custom to the client. So this
Yes.
means that if we want to exclude something for this specific customer, we're not locked into that exclusion across the board with every customer. Same thing with dollar threshold. If we're keeping documentation and receipts on anything over $100, right? So we can adjust these or remove these or add to for each and every client individually. So just want to make sure that that was a really clear through line, because I know some early users are worried about removing one on one client because we're worried that that's going to transfer over and I'm not going to see that report on any of my clients. These are all very customized changes that we're making.
Yes. Thank you. So how to add
Okay, now
those
for the fun
custom
stuff for
reports when
custom
you're
reports,
ready?
go ahead,
Yeah.
Jody.
Yeah. So when you're ready, and if you have custom reports that you want to create, just like the gift is showing here, you're going to be clicking on add report at the bottom and then choose add new report. That's also where if you have deleted them and you want to add back in the Keeper tasks, you can select that there and then choose from a dropdown for those ones that Keeper's already built out for us. But to create a custom one, you're going to click on that new one, give it a name, and then set your report logic. With that, you've got many, many options and you can build off of it. So right here at the top, you're going to see it says, if all of the following are true, then you're going to pull in those transactions for me to review. So you can be as specific or as general as you want here, but you do have a wide variety of options to be able to choose from. Depending on what you choose in this category, then your option here might change. Is equal to, is true, is false, is blank, all of that. So lots and lots of options, a huge playground here for creating custom reports. And the whole point of these is to make you more efficient and to get you to drill down to see the information that you really need to double check. All right, let's get into a couple of examples here. The first one I have for you is setting the report logic for a specific group of transactions. In this example, we've told Keeper that we want to see a list of transactions that where the account or the split contains the word travel. Now you can also choose a drop down here and individually select all of your travel accounts. You could do that by doing contains and just putting travel. If I create additional travel accounts down the road, this will still catch them. But I also want to know if it has an attachment or not. So I want to catch the ones that are missing receipts for this report so that I can follow up with my client and grab those. So I've put in 2 parameters here that I want Keeper to look for. It's going to go look at the accounting software and then give me a list of anything that meets this amount or this information here.
And I do want to call out that Jody did something that is best practice with that first filter.
Yes.
If you select just account or just split, Keeper will actually have a little pop-up or kind of warning that says, hey, we actually recommend you choose account or split, as it's more likely to kind of be all encompassing. Whereas you might accidentally miss something if you're just doing account or split. So that is usually the go-to instead of just account or just split, which you can do, but this is going to be probably a little bit more accurate and efficient.
Yep.
Exactly. And then again, I think a lot of these custom reports, we can set them up to make sure that Keeper's filtering in what we want to see and filtering out some of the things that we don't want to see. But part of that means that we need to make it expansive enough that it's going to catch anything with travel in that last example to give us the best shot to review some of those. So I think that's one thing that you're always trying to think about is we're trying to refine it so we don't see every transaction, but we want to give it enough parameters that Keeper can pull anything that's related and allow us on the individual knowledge or with the knowledge that we have to go through and individually check them.
Yeah. Our next example here is one that's just checking vendor payees. So this example here is maybe I've got a junior bookkeeper and uh, we want to make sure that all of the different payment processors like Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Square, like those kinds of things aren't being identified as like that's the payee. We want to make sure that we're putting the payee in for the person who actually received the money. Since this is just a processor, this is going to it goes into like opens a whole can of worms with 1099s and all of that. So we want to make sure that the right person's identified. So this is just an example of, hey, this is something maybe that I've seen that was an issue with with our firm that we wanted to go back and double check that everything had a correct payee. Again, this could be set up in a lot of different ways. This was just a quick example of another option for a custom report.
And just reiterating that we then have the power to go through, and if truly that transaction is from that payee, is from that vendor, like it's our PayPal subscription or something like that, we can
Right.
thumbs up, say, no, Keeper, you're good. This one's fine. I don't need to worry about this one. But it gives us the choice that it's going to essentially like highlight these different things so we can go through and adjust anything or say, nope, this is good and approve it and kind of clear it out.
Right. The other thing you could do here to fine tune it is add another parameter. So you could add more to the report logic here. So it could say, plus the account or split is not software or something like that. So like you could find other ways to fine tune this to just see what it is that you need to review and take action on. And the final example we have today is this one adds in using class and customer. So maybe it's a really specific thing for your client that you need to ensure that anything that has a specific class also has a customer assigned to it as well. So again, this is just showing that you can have multiple layers in your report logic to really fine tune the reports that you're seeing and the review that you're doing for that. And now it's our final Q&A break. So let's open up for any questions on reports, the custom reporting tasks, but we can also address any other features that have come up.
All right. So Kim asks, could we create a custom expense detail report for last month? So Jody, that one, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I have not played around very much with expense detail reports. So I think I might need a little bit more context on the exact information that you need. But as long as you can put it into the report logic, you can. Now, one thing, and then you could export it if you're needing to send that to somebody. But this is not going to spit out a report that looks like your financial reports that you pull in QBO to where you can have a PDF of it and send that to your clients. It's going to look a little bit different because it's going to be in that transaction grid. Yeah, I think maybe.
More
Consensus
research to
at
be
it.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about management reports, not the reporting task that we were just talking about. So if our firm wants to add custom reports to the client's month-end package, what's our recommended practice for that? And can you combine PDFs, for example?
Okay, this is a great question. So this is going to be within the management reports. So let me go into client and go to our reporting hub. two options here for when we publish reports or send reports to our client through the client portal. One is going to be doing the management report that Keeper provides. There's lots of ways to edit this one, but one thing we cannot do is add additional pages, custom pages, like updating or uploading a PDF to add a separate page in here. So that we would not be able to do there. If you have an outside PDF, so if you create a report somewhere else, you can use outside like third-party things to be able to combine different PDFs into one PDF. But once you have that one PDF, you can upload and publish that here. So you can either publish the client or publish the management report here within Keeper, or you can upload a PDF here to be able to send custom reporting to your client. So hopefully that answered your question there.
And that is one that there is a canny request out there for. So definitely upvote to keep visibility on when that changes in Keeper and to add your vote so that Keeper can prioritize.
And just want to make sure the candy I'm putting in the chat is the upload custom reports, but instead of replacing the Keeper package, just including it, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Got it. There's two actually, so I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do one for upload custom reports to Keeper, and this one is under review. And then the upload our own reports is partially complete because of what I just mentioned. Like you can currently replace Keeper's reports with your own, but it wouldn't combine them. So two separate candies. Perfect. And someone just mentioned one of us was cutting out. I don't know if it was me. I know my Wi-Fi is really, really wonky. But Jody, it sounds like you might have just cut out potentially a little bit.
Okay, so we have a pretty good question about, is there a way to integrate or link the comments or questions directly within a specific task in Keeper? So this person would love to see like a running thread for each task. So I think this is a really good one, especially since our comments do get resolved, right? And they still stay with that task so that we have that record, but it can be difficult to keep track of that. So Jody, do you have any insight on this one?
So I think what they're asking is if they can see a running thread from the different tasks. So like maybe it's close over close. Do you think that's what they're asking about? Because you can see your thread here for this task, but once this task is completed and like a new one comes in, that task or the chat stays there. The only place where you have your full history can be here at the top, where you can go to the all tab and be able to see everything across.
Or search.
I do have one tip. If you go to the account reconciliation section, this is caveat here is this is unique only to account reconciliation tasks. But if you open up the chat on that for me, you do have the ability to compare prior periods. It's kind of hidden in the upper right-hand corner, those three dots. And you can compare and see the last 3 months. So this same task on the last 3 close pages, what were the internal comments and thread? That being said, this is unique only to account reconciliation tasks. This is actually a feature on account reconciliation tasks for not only internal comments, but also files and footnotes. You can compare the last 3 prior periods.
Lauren, is there a canny out there for this to be available for all the rest of the comments as well?
Yes, I'm pulling that up right now. I will drop it in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. That's really cool. That's a new one for me. That's part of the reason I love these. Are you find little tiny things that each of us know collectively, or maybe one of us has found or something like that, but you kind of pool them all together and get really cool tips here.
Yeah, and I'm just calling out, if you want to go ahead and click on the footnote for me, Jody, this is so nuanced. It's kind of hidden, but like on the footnote, the compare button's so easily visible, right? However, on the file icon and the comment icon, it's hidden with those 3 dots. And there is a candy. There's only 4 votes, so let's get some more votes on this,
Yeah, let's
folks.
upvote that.
I'm just leaving an internal comment for our team that we discussed during Game Changers. So here is the comment history candy. There you go.
Thanks for helping find that, Lauren, and share
Yeah,
that
of course.
tip. That's really cool.
Yes.
Okay, so I believe this is talking about those management reports or our custom reports. So where those actually land within the client portal, and does it go to its own folder? Do we need to create its own folder? So really good call out here.
So in the
Now,
client
Jody went
portal,
through
it
that a
will
little
still
bit
land
fast,
here.
but this is one of the quick extra tips as well, is to preview and see what your client sees. So went through that a little bit quickly, but this is one of our favorite like tiny features that we're going to shout from the rooftops every time we can.
Yep, so that's on your portal settings. Right here, there's a preview column. Click on that little eyeball. It's going to show you a live view of that specific contact's client portal view. So this is exactly what that contact will see. Whether you publish a Keeper management report or you upload your own management report, publishing financials will always land here in your financial reports section here. When it comes to the files, it should also go to that auto organized financial report section there.
Yep. So what that means is we don't need to create our own custom folder. Those are going to be auto organized. One I did see that we answered via like text behind the scenes, but I wanted to make sure everybody saw it, is we were talking about those task statuses and being able to mark canceled or skipped. That will not prevent the entire close from being marked done. Sometimes we can't mark it done because there's open tasks, right? That's the point of that canceled or skipped, is it allows us to still mark it done, keep that record that we skipped it, and still check the entire close off. So just wanted to call that out now because it's a really good thing to know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why you can't delete it, is because that's the functionality kind of behind the scenes, is that it's like overriding the inability to mark it as done. So that's why we don't allow you to delete it.
Right. I'm just showing them where you can set those up or edit them.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So anything that's grayed out, we've already built the logic kind of internally.
Yes.
Yeah, just like not started, all show when you're looking at open tasks or overdue tasks. Again, it performs some further logic behind the scenes. So we can change it to our little heart's content if that wording does not stick well, but there's additional functionality that we can kind of like not delete completely.
Yeah.
We are coming to the end of our time together, so feel free to throw any last minute questions in that questions box. But Jody, if you don't mind going to the next slide, I want to share a couple of free resources that we have if you really like this style of, hey, let me learn everything I can about Keeper and at least explore different features and see how other people use them. We do have monthly Q&As that are essentially one feature and then open for questions, very similar to how we did this today. So we do have those every third Wednesday. We have an additional resources page that has a bunch of PDFs about how to customize your client portal or how to use tags, things like this. So if you want to see more examples of inspiration of how you can build out Keeper, you can. Or if you want to see any of our previous Q&A topics, they're on our YouTube page. Or if you want to see any of the game changers, those are on Keeper's page and hosted here. So if you need to go back to review anything or want to go see some of the other topics that we've done, you can absolutely go check those on either of our pages.
I'm also dropping some specific Keeper stuff in here too, like our LinkedIn page where we announced this webinar, as well as, I know Eric and Jody put the YouTube channel up here, but I'm also just going to drop it in the chat if that's easier.
Yep.
No, super helpful.
And
Thanks
that's
for
where
that,
this
Lauren.
recording will be. Someone asked that too, and I answered it. This
Mhm.
is where we post all of our recordings.
We
Perfect.
did have a question about, can we show once more where to upload your custom PDF for financial statements? So that is going, again, it's going to be on that reporting tab at the top. Give my computer time to load. And then we're going to click on the publish button. A minute. Okay, we're going to click on that publish button, and the upload and publish custom report. Select that, and it will allow you to add a file.
And if it's
And
okay,
this
I'd like to
one,
spend
just like, oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I wanted to just clarify the kind of publishing options. I'll reiterate really quickly if you don't mind clicking on them, Jody. The first thing I want to reiterate is clicking that publish button does not automatically publish the report. There is really no such button in Keeper that you click and automatically sends out any client notification. There's like minimum 2 to 3 clicks anytime you're sending something to a client. So don't be afraid to click the publish button, and then just real quick run down of what these options are, which again, you can click on any of them. It's still not going to notify your client. Print would save it as a PDF to your desktop. Email would pull up the email interface here in Keeper and send the report as a PDF via email. And adding to the portal would do exactly what Jody showed you earlier, put it in their portal under the financial reports, and ask you if you also want to send an email notifying them to go to the portal. So just want to call out that feel free to play around with these to like kind of figure out what works best for your client on delivering those, but takes minimum 3 clicks. You have to hit publish, then you have to choose how you want to publish, and then you basically have to confirm the details before it actually publishes. So just want to be really clear on that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good call out because a lot of us are like, I don't want to bombard my clients, especially if I'm playing around here. So it's all good. That notify client is the same checkbox that we're going to see on like our non-transaction questions when we add them and things like that. So painting a parallel that those are all how we're going to notify. Otherwise, it's going to add it to the portal without that email in your auto reminders or catch it or something like that. So really good mention here because a lot of us are worried about bombarding our clients. You have to select to notify client for that to happen. You're good.
And also someone asked, can we show where the custom PDF lands? If you're clicking publish here and clicking upload custom report, then it's going to their financial section in the portal. If you're uploading it as a file to their portal, then it's going to go under their files tab.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is all the questions we got. Just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us, either here live and we're asking questions, or for anybody watching the recording. We always have a really fun time getting to share some of the nuances and bounce back and forth to share little tips that each of us have gathered over time so that you can have a little bit of an easier time in Keeper, or find one of those buttons that you're like, I see that every darn day and I didn't know what that is. So hopefully this helped kind of bridge the gap, give you more ideas, but definitely reach out to either the Keeper team or us if you need a little bit more help customizing or figuring out what's going to work best for your use of Keeper.
And I did drop my email in the chat as well for those that need some Keeper account assistance. And I'll just put it in here one more time because I think it's buried at this point. Feel free to shoot me an email and I can get you the correct next steps. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.